Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the virtual stage your host, Joanna Parsons. Hello, that's me. Do you ever introduce yourself with the camera off before an event? It's great fun. I highly, highly recommend it. Welcome to this session about managing your comms workload with me, Joanna Parsons. So let's start with me. Let's do a quick introduction on hello. If you don't know me, you haven't met me yet, I am the CEO of a company called The Curious Route. I'm an internal communications consultant, author, lecturer, trainer, content creator, all around internal comms nerd. I have worked in internal communications for over a decade. I was in-house for many, many years, including in the Irish Police Force. This picture over here on the right is me with Commissioner Drew Harris when I was head of internal communications with the Irish National Police Force. This is the book I published last year, Innovative Internal Communication. Below is a screen grab from my YouTube where I make videos all about internal comms. And the main way that I spend my time and my energy is in a membership community I run for internal communicators called The Curious Tribe. So I'm not here alone. I'm here in partnership with Workvivo, one of my favorite companies, homegrown Irish company too. So I've introduced myself. Let's get a little bit acquainted with Workvivo before we jump in.
Introducing Workvivo, an employee experience platform. One consumer-inspired app that unifies internal communications and engagement, becoming the digital heart of your organization. Through Workvivo's activity feed, employees can share and follow news, videos, articles, events, podcasts, and live streams. Community spaces allow you to tailor content to specific audiences, enabling a personalized user experience and increased sense of belonging. Celebrate success and strengthen team connection through employee recognition. Bring company values to life by aligning content with culture and goals. Our smart feed keeps employees informed by pushing important content to the top. Automatic weekly digest emails ensure nobody misses out. Get to know your colleagues and see who works in each team by checking out the People directory. Gain full platform visibility through our powerful analytics tool. Monitor performance, usage, and capture valuable insights through comprehensive reports. Workvivo replaces traditional intranets and multiple communication channels. A digital workplace with seamless access to key documents and resources. One centralized hub, providing full integration with all your favorite tools. Reach all employees across multiple devices in their preferred language.
Ciao.
Transform your digital workplace and elevate the employee experience with Workvivo. One platform delivering limitless human connection.
Okay, that's me. That's Workvivo. Now, I really want to hear from you. I want you to open up that chat box. I want you to get your fingers on your keyboards, and I want you to tell me, what is one word that describes your current workload? You could be as honest as you want. This is a safe space. Oh, look at this. Someone's screaming, ah, crazy, frenzied, jeepers, soul crushing. Oh, Tiffany, my friend, chaotic, intense, in capital letters, more chaotic, insane, overwhelming, unrealistic, chaos, unmanageable. Okay, lads, do you see the theme here? There's clearly a theme. No one has said wonderful, unattainable, huge, chaotic, full, disorganized. Okay, so if this is you, you're clearly not alone. Let's do a little experiment. I challenged myself to think about what you would answer to that question to see how well do I understand my audience? How well do I know internal comms pros? Let's have a look on the next slide to see what I reckon you said. Am I turning this into a game show? Maybe I am. Here's what I thought you might say. Chaotic, overwhelming, relentless, exhausting, unrealistic, frantic, crazy, endless, intense, unsustainable. These are the words I hear all the time from internal communication professionals who are drowning in their workload, who are up against it, who have no budget, no resources, and they're just exhausted and their workload is bonkers. So if this is you, which I think it is a lot of you, If this is you, I want you to know two things at the start of this session. The first is you're not alone. This is super common. And the second thing is you're absolutely in the right place because I can help you with this. I can totally help you with this. What is it about me? What makes me such an expert? How am I qualified to help you with this? Well, for starters, I was a team of one many times in my career. I was often that lonely soldier, really trying to do the work of an entire team by myself. But I think even more now that I run my own business, I'm particularly qualified to help you with this because I want to show you something I've actually never shared publicly before. I want to show you the organizational chart of the business that I run. I'm the CEO. I want to show you what the org chart looks like so that we can talk about maybe why I'm pretty good at managing a workload. Are you ready to have a look? Let's have a look. Here's here's the Curious Root organizational chart. The face might look a little bit familiar. So I am the CEO, but I'm also my own chief product officer, my chief operations officer. I'm the head of marketing. I'm the head of product development, administration, finance. I look after all my customers, my leads, my sales. I do all my communications. I build and maintain my own website. I know a thing or two about workload management. And sometimes when I tell people that I do all this myself, they kind of get this look and they go, yeah, but I bet you're working 18-hour days and I bet you're working at night and I bet you work all weekend. I will tell you honestly, I work Monday to Thursday from 9 to about 4:30. And then on Fridays, I work from 9 till 2 and I take the day off to spend it with my daughter. We go to the library, we do arts and crafts. I don't work in the evenings. I don't work at the weekend. I sleep really well. I'm not particularly stressed and I have a very successful business. And I put a lot of that down to my ability to manage a workload, to ruthlessly prioritize. And I have a secret sauce, a secret tool that I'm going to share with you today that is at the root of all this. I'm not a genius. I'm just some normal person. But this tool, this framework I'm going to show you today is what I use all the time. And it's what I used when I was in-house as well, when I was drowning as a one-person internal communicator. I used this a lot. So let's do another. I am turning this into a game show. Let's have another go in the chat. Who's this man? Does anybody know who this is? The flag in the background. Oh, Jesus, you got it already. The flag in the background is a clue. Caroline and Chriselle, I hope I'm saying your name right. Right in there straight away. Eisenhower. This is Dwight D. Eisenhower. I would have failed that quiz because when I was putting these slides together, I realized I didn't know what he looked like. I had to go and find a picture of him. So Dwight D. Eisenhower was a five-star general in the United States military. He then went on to become the 34th president of the United States. And this man is very famous for the reputation that he gained in being able to get so much important work done, making complex, big, meaty decisions, and being able to laser focus, prioritize on what was important and figuring out where to put his energy and attention and what balls to simply let drop. And this is a quote of his that I heard many years ago. And when I first heard this, I think I felt like a little bit personally attacked. So let me read the quote first. What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. And this really spoke to me because in our world of internal comms, there is almost this current sense or a constant sense of urgency, isn't there? Everything is urgent. I need this right now. You have to drop everything. I need this now. But is that the same as the stuff being important? So the first key takeaway I really want you to take away from today is let's kind of decouple those words, urgent and important. Let's make them separate and look at our work through the lens of they don't have to be the same thing, because they're not. And this is the framework that I'm going to get into in detail over the next 20 minutes. This is the Eisenhower matrix. This is my secret sauce of how I'm able to do everything I'm able to do. The beauty of this tool is anyone can do it. You don't need to spend any money. You don't need any special software. You can do it with the crayon and piece of paper if you want. It is simply these two axes. So this one here that goes top to bottom. Top of the axes is stuff that's important. At the bottom is stuff that's not important. And then here, this axis here, is stuff that's really urgent, and stuff that's not urgent. And that's how we're going to start separating out our workload to make it more manageable, to focus on what matters and to figure out what we're not going to do anymore. So before we jump into how does it all work, and I'll give you examples and I'll show you how I use it and I'll give you a template so you can use it. Shall we do a bit of a giveaway first? I feel very generous today. I think I want to give away a prize. And I actually couldn't decide what to give you as a prize. So I've picked 3 different books. You're all communicators. I'm sure you all love books. I've picked 3 different books and you can pick which one you want. So before I tell you how to win, I'll give you like the briefest overview of the books. Now, the first one, obviously, I'm so biased. That's my book. This book, Innovative Internal Communication. This book is for you if you are interested in moving beyond copying other people's best practices and internal comms and figuring out how can you really use curiosity to be a really effective strategic communicator. That book is for you. This book in the middle, one of my favorite books of all time. If you've never heard of Chris Voss, he is an ex FBI hostage negotiator. He's a total badass. This book is for you if you really want to improve your influencing skills. Basically, if you want to figure out how do I make people do things that I want them to do, but they don't have to do them? How do I improve my skills? I've read this book about 3 times. I'm going to read it again this year. Like, it's just class, brilliant. And then this book here by Nirial, this is for you if you feel like you get to the end of the day and you're like, where did all my time go? This is about time management and attention control and really taking back control over how you're spending your time. All 3 books are like quite easy reads, nothing heavy academic, and lots of practical application. So the winner of this giveaway, you can tell me which book you want. What do you have to do? Right, take out your smartphone. That's what you want to do. And turn on your camera and turn on your selfie mode. And I'm going to put 2 slides up after this one. You can pick which one you want. You're very simply going to take your camera. I'll use a packet of tissues to demonstrate here. You've got to turn around. You're going to put your camera up and you're going to take a selfie so I can see your lovely face and I can see the screen. It's really that simple. So here's the first one you can use. We've got the quote from our friend, Mr. Eisenhower. What is important is seldom urgent. And what is urgent is seldom important. I feel like when I read, I should have that on my wall. Maybe I need a bit of a reminder of that sometime. Give you a second to take your selfie if your phone is acting up. And then here's the other slide that you can use. Maybe you want to show off the prizes and maybe you've already decided which one you want. Again, we've got innovative internal communication, we've got never split the difference, and we've got indistractable. Okay, if your phone is slow or if you're like me and you need to take 20 selfies before you can decide which one to use, I'm going to go on to the next slides, but you can take a selfie at any point during any of the other slides throughout the webinar, so you can use one of them. Right, what do you have to do with your selfie to win one of these great books? Here's what you have to do. You have to simply post your picture on LinkedIn. And if you're like, oh, I don't know what to write with it, well, I'm here to help you. You can use one of these simple one-liners that I believe lovely James from Workvivo is going to paste into the chat. So you can copy and paste it. We're making this super easy for you. So you can write something like, great masterclass today on how to work smarter, not harder. Maybe you want to write, feeling fired up after a great session of managing your workload, or running, not walking, to use the Eisenhower matrix to map out my workload. Now, here's the thing, you have to tag me. Otherwise, I won't see your entry. It won't like come up on my feed. Tag me, tag Workvivo. I'm going to pick a winner on Monday. Whoever is the winner, I'm going to send you a DM, ask you what book you want. I'm going to go and buy your book. I will sign it for if you want. I'm also going to go to the shop and buy like some lovely snacks because I think you need lovely snacks to go with the lovely book. And I will put that in the post for you. So you have until Monday. If you want to do it right now, you can. If you want to do it after the webinar, you can. The last time we did this, we absolutely melted LinkedIn and it was great crack. So let's do that again. Okay, that's the giveaway. I'm going to leave that with you. Now let's go back and talk about our friend, Mr. Eisenhower, and have a look at this tool. How does it actually work? Why do I think it's so amazing? How do I actually use it? And how can you use it? Because I want this to be practical. And what I would say here is there's an opportunity in this webinar to download this template and go off and do this. Please don't make this one of those webinars where you go, that was very interesting, and then you do nothing. Please take action on this. This tool is brilliant. I'm living proof of it. So again, quick reminder, that's what it looks like. You've got these 2 axes, important, not important, urgent, not urgent. Let's have a little look at how does it all work? How do you do it? Do you know, I'm going to go back a step actually, because I want to tell you about a mistake that I often used to make with this tool. I'm getting better. Don't do it too much anymore. I used to kind of use this tool when it was sort of too late. when I was already in overwhelm, panic mode. I was flailing all around the shop. I didn't know what to even start to do on my to-do list, and I was just in a panic. And then I would use this to sort everything out, figure out what to do, and it would calm me down. But it works even better if you use it before you get to that stage. You can use it as a preventative tool to ever get to that sense of panic and overwhelm. I'm pretty good at doing that now, which is why I don't work nights and I sleep pretty good because I use this regularly. I'm always checking in with this tool. So just bear that in mind. It's not a kind of one and done. Right. Really simple. This is how I use it and how you can use it. The first thing you're going to do, and you can do this on pen and paper, you can do this in a Word document, whatever you want. Step one, you just need to brain dump all your tasks down on a page. So literally write down every single thing that you're working on. Look at your to-do list. If you're anything like me, you probably have a to-do list on Trello. Maybe you also have one on Microsoft Planner. You probably also have one in a notebook and maybe some Post-its lying around. So you want to gather all them together. You want to think about all the meetings that you're in, all the projects you're working in, all the newsletter articles you're writing, all the documents that are waiting to be edited, all those requests in your inbox of people who want your time and attention and energy. Write it all down. Get as granular as you can. Because you can't start managing your workload if you don't know what your workload is. So that's step one. Just get it all out of your head. Sometimes when I do this with clients, it's very helpful for them to go into their inbox or go into their calendar because the stuff that maybe they've forgotten about and it's there. Just absolutely everything that you need to spend time or attention on, write it all down. So you've got your list. It's probably massive. You probably want to cry a little bit already. So step two, this is where we're going to start looking at it through, let's call it the Eisenhower lens. You're going to start looking at literally every single thing on that list. And you're going to ask yourself, is this important? Is this urgent? So I kind of want to create a bit of clarity about what does that mean, because important doesn't mean that Trisha from finance has come over to your desk and she's stamping her foot and she's saying, I need this right now and it's super important. So it's important to her, but is it important for you to spend your time on? So when I talk about importance, I would be looking at this in two ways. The first way is this piece of work, is this task aligned to the objectives in my communication strategy? I really hope you have a communication strategy. So your work should be delivering on the objectives. That's what you're going to be accountable for to the leaders in your strategy. So is there a link between this task and something in your strategy document? Or maybe there's stuff that is genuinely important that is not captured in your strategy. Maybe your CEO has just had a tantrum and quit. Like, that's pretty important to communicate. Maybe there's been a big change or there's some crisis communications. There's something that is very important to the business, that is really important to your CEO. That also counts as important. Trisha from finance, I don't know who she is, I'm picking on her, stamping her foot at your desk doesn't necessarily make it important. So start really critically looking at your work and going, is this important? And then the second bit is looking at, is this really urgent? I hate that sense of like, everything is urgent all the time. Like if everything is urgent, nothing is. So when I talk about urgency, I mean, is there a hard deadline on this? Is something bad going to happen if this doesn't happen by 4 o'clock or if I don't deliver this tomorrow? So for example, if your CEO is running a town hall tomorrow, that's urgent. There's a deadline on that. He needs the notes or the slides or whatever you're doing. So that's step two. Just starting to look through that lens of, is this work important? Is this work urgent? And then, oh, sorry, over there, I should say step three. Step three is you're going to start assigning all of your tasks. Oh, that big list, you're going to put it into one of 4 boxes according to the Eisenhower matrix. You're going to put it into one of 4 places. This is where it starts to get fun and where you can, sorry, fun for me, I'm such a nerd. You can start to really visualize your workload and whether you're spending time on stuff that's important or not. So this is kind of what it looks like. There's 4 different categories. So remember, we've got this axis in the middle. So up the top is stuff that's important. Down here is not important. And this axis here, we've got stuff that isn't urgent and stuff that is urgent. So you've got these 4 options, right? Now, when you're putting your tasks into these boxes, don't be cheating. Don't be like putting it on the line. Don't be sitting on the fence. Like, make a good executive decision about where everything sits. Right. So this first box here, this is stuff that is urgent. There is a deadline on it. It has to happen. And it's also important. So it's either related to something in your communication strategy or it's something that's genuinely important to the business. This is just stuff they have to get done right now. This is like drop what you're doing and focus on this immediately zone. That's stuff you have to do. If we go over here, this is the work that is not urgent. So there's no timeline on this. There's no deadline on this. No one's going to come crying to you if this doesn't get done, but it's important. And if you want to be a strategic communicator, this is the box you should be spending most of your time in. So this is stuff like strategic planning. This is stuff like reviewing your measurement dashboard. This is stuff like evaluating that last communications campaign. This is running focus groups with your employees or going and shadowing a frontline worker for the day to like really understand their day and how they consume information. All the stuff that we know is really important for long-term success, but always gets pushed to the bottom of the list because we're constantly doing urgent work instead. So these two boxes that's work that's important, right? Both of them are important. Let's look at these bottom two boxes here. This is work that is not important. So it's not important to your strategy. It's not particularly important to the big picture of the business. Over here, we have stuff that is urgent, but isn't important. So let's say we've got Billy from engineering. And Billy comes to you all in a panic and he says, oh, I'm doing a department town hall tomorrow and my slides are total shambles. Can you fix them for me? So that's urgent, right? It's got a deadline. That's for tomorrow. Is that important to you? Is that going to move the needle on your strategy? Is that important to the big priorities of the business? Probably not. So maybe Billy should be doing that himself, and maybe you can give him a little guidebook or a little self-serve resource that he can do that himself. Anything that falls in here is the work you're just going to delegate that to somebody else. And then we've got this box down here. I like to call this put it in the bin box. So this is work that's not urgent. Nobody's chasing you for it. There's no deadline on it. It's also not important. So maybe you have been going to a recurring meeting that's been on every Wednesday afternoon for the last 2 years and you don't need to be there. You don't contribute anything. You don't learn anything. You just go because it's always on. Maybe you don't do that anymore because there's no value in it. So this is where you go next. And what you'll find then when you map out your work like this and you kind of step back, give yourself a bit of space, you're going to see in a visual way, where are you spending the most time? Now, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. This is probably a bit embarrassing, but like the first time I filled this out many years ago, most of my work was in this box down here. I was spending a lot of time on work that was urgent and it was not important, because kind of how I was operating is people would ask me to do stuff and they'd say, I need this right now. And I go, oh God, okay, of course I'll do that for you right now. And I'd be all in a flap and I'd add it to the list and I'd get it done. But by the end of the week, if you'd asked me, what did you do that contributed to the achievement of the objectives and the strategy, I would have looked at you and have said, what? Like, I don't understand the language that you just used. So the big shift that I made was I looked at this with intention. I realized where I was starting from, which was here. And I wanted to figure out, how am I going to get from here up to here? This is where I want to be spending my time. I want to be more of a strategic communicator that's planning out the work, doing proactive work. I'm not just reacting to everybody's requests. So here is some examples of the types of things in internal comms that you might put in each place, because I would love you to do this exercise yourself, but it might be helpful for you to see some examples. So work that is important and urgent. Say, for example, the office is going to be closed on Friday. There's an emergency in the office or it's going to be fumigated or something. People need to know about that quickly, and it's important because they cannot come in. Or if your CEO decides to leave, that again is urgent and important. Those kind of things. If you map out your workload like that, you can quickly see, okay, I have to tackle this first. That's important. Over here on the right, stuff that's important. It's not urgent, but it's important. My favorite thing, everyone else's worst thing, my favorite thing, strategic planning. Maybe you want to start creating some self-serve templates for your stakeholders so that when they need something, they can do it themselves instead of asking you. Those kind of things that you constantly put off, you need to start blocking off time and like deliberately, intentionally working on them, because no one's going to chase you for them. And then down here, urgent, but not important. Can you proofread this document for me? It's not critical. It's not important. You shouldn't be doing it. Can you look at these slides for this event that I never told you about, but it's happening in an hour? No, no, I can't. That's not important. And not urgent and not important. Maybe that recurring meeting that has no purpose or value. Maybe you've been creating a monthly dashboard or report, but nobody reads it. Sure, what's that about? So that's the kind of stuff you put it in the bin. So when you look at this visually, what I want you to kind of do at a glance is just like, what's the balance between the work you put in the top half and the work you put in the bottom half? Where is the balance of your spending your time on work that's important versus work that isn't? And if you're anything like me, many years ago, you might find yourself down the bottom, and that's totally grand because everyone starts somewhere, right? Now, I do want to say, like, it's a bit rich for me. I'm my own boss. So if I find things that are unimportant and I decide they don't need to be done, I can just drop them. But it's harder if you're in house and you have a boss and you have all these stakeholders and you have to keep the relationships and it's hard to say no. What do you do then? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do. I would use this Eisenhower matrix as a data point. I'm going to give you a script. Actually, I had great fun thinking of how I would approach this. I'm going to give you a script that you can use with your boss. So what I would do is I would complete this Eisenhower matrix and I would go to my boss and I'd say something like this. Hey boss, I got curious about how I'm spending my time and I mapped out my work by urgency and importance. I was kind of shocked to see that I'm spending 60% of my time on non-important work, work that isn't at all aligned to our common strategy. Could we have a conversation about this and come up with an action plan together? I really want to deliver more value to the organisation by reducing the time spent on non-important tasks such as XYZ and help you deliver the objectives in the comm strategy. So if you think you want to talk to your boss about this, take a screenshot of that or take a photo of that. There's a couple of clever things in this text that I want you to pay attention to. The first is you'll notice I'm not phrasing this as I don't like writing the newsletter or I don't want to make Billy's stupid slides. It's not about what I want to do. This is about I have got some data about how I'm spending my time. So you can't argue with the data. And you're talking about alignment to the communication strategy. So immediately you are approaching this conversation as a strategic conversation. The next clever thing you're doing here is you're collaborating. So you're not, you might come with ideas of what to change, but you want to make this a collaboration with your boss because if they help to create the new plan, then they're going to back up the new plan because they've been involved in it. You're also saying you want to deliver more value to the organization. So again, it's not about you shirking the jobs that you don't like or getting out of grunt work. It's about value to the organization. I mean, that's what they're paying you for. Like, what boss wouldn't want that? And the final clever thing that's in here that I really want you to use this. Your boss, if you report to a head of internal communications, a director of internal comms, a chief communications officer, they are responsible and accountable to the leadership team, to the board for the delivery of the communications strategy. That sits with them. So what you're doing here is you are positioning yourself as I want to help you to deliver on the objectives in the communication strategy. If I had an employee that came to me with this conversation, I would be delighted. I would probably give them a raise. I would be so happy because this shows someone wants to add value in a very strategic way. So here is really what I want you to do, because it's all well and good. You come to a webinar like this and you go, that's grand. But really, I have found this such an impactful tool and it is so easy to use. Here's what I want you to do. Do it right now when you're listening to me. Go into your diary right now and find yourself half an hour next week to do this exercise. Lovely James from Workvivo is going to put the downloadable template in the chat. You're also going to get it in an email after this session. Block off 30 minutes next week and have a go of doing this yourself. That downloadable template will give you the matrix, but it'll also give you those step-by-step instructions of exactly what to do and how to do it. And then sometime over the next quarter, why don't you work up the guts to have that curious conversation with your boss to say, do you know what? Here's the exercise I did, and here's the data, and I'm a bit shocked by the results. Let's talk about it and let's figure out how I can spend more time on important work, important non-urgent work, and let's figure out how we can get rid of some of that non-important work, because I reckon your boss probably will be as shocked by what you find out as you are. So that's your homework. If you want some, I'd love you to take some. This is what I really want you to remember. You don't have to change everything overnight. You don't suddenly go from being reactive, long to-do list to suddenly being a really calm, strategic communicator. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's a journey. what I would say is if you can take some small, tiny steps and just implement them and then find another tiny one and implement that, that will compound over time and you will make unrecognizable changes. So this doesn't have to be super overwhelming, super daunting. You can actually use this to manage your workload, to reduce your workload by cutting out that non-important work. But you can't cut it out if you don't know what it is. And that's the beauty of this tool. It puts it all right in front of your face. You can't escape it. Okay, that is that. Before I take your questions, if this has been useful to you, if you want some more free education, courtesy of Workvivo, you can join us for our next session on the 1st of April. I'll be going into all things communication channels. So if you're in an organization and you have this niggling feeling like, are we using the right channels? Do we have too many channels? Do we have too few? Are we reaching people? All things channels. I'm going to go deep into that. Again, it'll be very practical, very conversational, hopefully a bit of fun. And yeah, you're welcome to join for that. Right, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to see if there's any questions for me and you can ask me really anything that you want. Okay, Q&A box. Right. Okay, Joshua, this is a good question. What if management dictate what is regarded as important, e.g. almost everything on your list? This is a good question. Okay, what I would say is, first of all, you need to get very clear on what your purpose is in internal communications. So is your purpose to create strategic alignment in the organization? Is your purpose around improved productivity through access to easy to find information? Is your purpose to build the culture? Because once you know that, then you can start to figure out what does important mean to you, because everything's going to hang off that. The other thing you need to know is who are your key stakeholders. So like if your CEO wants something absolutely right now, I would suggest you have to do it absolutely right now. But who are those stakeholders who are always going to make your life difficult and that maybe you don't have to say, okay, I'll drop everything right now. I think that's a good conversation to have with your boss. So there's alignment there. And when you do push back and say no to somebody, that your boss will back you up. Okay. Kira asks, should you always have a written strategy? Absolutely. Yeah, totally. My advice would be that your internal communication strategy should align with the timeline of your business strategy. So some businesses have a 5-year strategy. So then you're going to have a 5-year comms strategy, high level. Some organizations will only have a 1-year strategy. You're going to have a 1-year strategy because as the organization changes, then so does what you're doing. It has to align. And then falling out of that strategy, you're going to have your plans. So your strategy is like why we're doing it and how it aligns to the business and setting some clear objectives. And then your plans coming out of there are the tactical, like how are we actually going to do this? What are the key messages? Who are the audiences? What are the channels? All of that kind of more fun stuff. But yes, I would absolutely suggest you should have a strategy. Who do you delegate to if you are an individual contributor, says Seema. That's a good question. So sometimes it's not about you necessarily delegating directly. So let's take that example of Billy from engineering who wants me to do his slides because he's got a town hall tomorrow and his slides are terrible. It's not necessarily for me to take that work and then delegate it to somebody else. It's more for me to say, that's actually not for me to do. Billy, you can do that yourself, or maybe Billy wants to find somebody else to do it. But the idea is that it's not in the put it in the bin pile because it still has to get done. It just means that you're not going to do it. Also, if you're in that world of like, I don't have any reports and I feel like a challenge with influencing people, then I really think that book by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, is one for you because it's all about influencing. It's brilliant. Stephanie says, do you have any recommended communication strategy documents or decks? Do you know, this is a great question, a very timely question, Stephanie, because I'm actually building a course at the moment, which I will run both live and on demand for how to build a communication strategy step by step, because I think there's so much confusion. I'm also going to give you a sample of like, here's a completed one, what it looks like. Here's a template that you can use for yours. Here's exactly the steps. Here's exactly what I want you to do. I think we make strategy quite complicated and it's quite overwhelming for people. Like, what does it even mean? And what does it look like? What's the difference between a strategy and a plan? So I'm working on that right now to hopefully simplify it and demystify it. Get on my newsletter if you're interested in that, because that's where I'll launch first sometime soon. Okay. Ida, I hope I'm saying your name right. I work at a small company where many people's idea of internal comms is asking for everything from a sign in the kitchen to create a PDF from a PowerPoint. I struggle with how to say, no, that's not my job in a friendly way. How do you handle that? Great question. And this is absolutely part of your growth and development, particularly if you're in a more junior role. This is a conversation you absolutely should be having with your boss if you have a lovely boss, to actually upfront exactly what you just said to me, because they will know your organizational context and your culture and the politics. In some organizations, like I used to work in the police, and like you could be so direct with people. Like if you asked a police officer for feedback on something, like they would give it to you, like straight. And I loved that because there was never any dancing around. And I've worked in other organizations where you absolutely had to do the dancing around, like it was considered rude to be so direct. So it totally depends on the culture and the context of your organization. I think when you have a very clear strategy with clear objectives and you understand what you're working on, it's much easier. And sometimes it's as simple as showing stakeholders, well, actually, right now I'm working on XYZ for the CEO, and then I'm doing this piece about the strategic narrative. So I'm afraid that just takes priority over your work and I can't do that. Sometimes that's all they need to hear. And they're like, oh, fair enough. Yeah. Because I think we forget, like, they don't know what we do. They have absolutely no idea what we do. So sometimes we just need to tell them or show them. I would also say, final word on that, Ida, is part of it just comes with age and confidence and practice. So as you get older, like I'm in my 40s now, I've absolutely no trouble saying no to people. But like when I was in my 20s, I wouldn't have said boo. So like it's a journey. You'll get there. Shisha, Shesha, I'm so sorry, whichever version that is. I would like to hire external support to help with some of the design work. I worry that this undermines my own capacity. How would you address this? Interesting. When you say undermines my own capacity, do you mean like credibility, I wonder? Anyway, if you're a team of one, actually, I don't care what size team you are, you shouldn't be doing everything yourself. Outsourcing is brilliant. I've been in a team before where I was expected to literally do everything. And it doesn't do anything for either the business or for the practitioner, because for the business, they're going to get a diluted version of my work. I can't do amazing, brilliant quality work if I'm trying to do the work of an entire team. And the business isn't going to really get any benefits from that. And I'm going to be totally exhausted. And I'm going to be kind of annoyed that my work is a bit subpar as well. So there is absolutely no shame in hiring external support. If you have a budget, you go and spend it. Spend it all and then ask for more. That's my advice. Okay, let's see. Jeepers is loads here. Okay, let me scroll back up. What if there is a deadline, but nothing bad is going to happen if the deadline is missed? Asks Joanne. So that's an interesting one. I think go back and ask yourself about the importance bit. Like, if the deadline is missed and nothing happens, is that work really important? So, for example, if your CEO gets up for the town hall and there's no preparation done and no slides, that's bad. That's really bad. Don't let that happen. But if there's something that, like a ball drops and nothing happens, maybe that ball should have just dropped. And maybe it's just me, right? But I talk to internal communicators literally every day for my job. And we're very bad at letting go of things that we don't need to do. We want to do everything. We want to make everybody happy. We want to do a wonderful job. But please, I would encourage you to find those balls that can be dropped and let them shatter all over the floor. You don't need them. They're not helping you. Just let them go. Okay, jeepers loads here. All right. Is there a tool you'd recommend to capture and track all comms requests, please? God, loads of tools can do this. I reckon Workvivo could probably do that. I use Notion for tracking stuff. Microsoft Planner can probably track stuff. A good way to, if you're in a team where you're getting loads of inbound requests coming at you all the time, one way to start putting manners on stakeholders around this and to stop it getting crazy is to create like an intake form. First thing this will do is some people just won't want to fill out the form. So magically that work will disappear because they don't want to bother filling out a form. So that's brilliant. But also you can put in that form like, What are you trying to do? Who is your target audience? What's the objective? Like, I get the information that you need to start prioritizing that work. So before you even have a conversation with that person, you can sit with your team and start looking at, like, is this actually important? Is this urgent? Do we need to actually work on this? Do we not? Okay. My goodness. What if Sarah asks, what if your team favors internal meetings when you believe a lot of discussions could be handled via email or the chosen EXP? I think that means employee experience platform. Oh, listen, I hate meetings. Like, this is the wrong question for me. I I'm a big fan of working asynchronously, which I think comes down to my own preference. Like, I'm a really introverted person. I don't want to be in meetings all day. It's too peoply for me. I would be totally exhausted. Other people love being in meetings. They don't seem to want to do any work. They just want to meet all day. Totally comes down to your organizational culture, the ways of working, the organizational norms, what your boss expects from you. What you can do, what I would suggest, is something that I have done successfully in other organizations, is I have introduced some asynchronous ways of working simply like by telling people that they exist, because some people just default to meetings because that's all they know, and they don't want to write an email maybe because they haven't formulated it in their head. So you can introduce, like, set up stuff on Teams, or if you use workflows or collaboration tools, like, simply introduce them, especially if you're running a project and you get to decide. That will work. There is no business strategy where I am, says Margot. So how do I create a strategy that makes sense? This is a good question. This does happen. If you are in an organization, maybe it's a kind of a more startup-y, agile, small company, and there is no formal written business strategy, and you're like, where do I do? I guarantee that your leaders have priorities. They may not have written them in a document that they call strategy, but they have priorities they are working towards. Try and find out what they are. That is simply going and, like, asking people and engaging that curiosity and being absolutely unrelenting in your questioning, because you cannot truly add value to the business if you don't know what the business is trying to achieve. So, for example, is the top priority for your CEO this year retaining great staff? Or is it reducing customer churn? Or is it making the organization more lean and efficient? Or is it around increased productivity in a hybrid model? Like, what is that 1, 2, 3 top priorities that your CEO is reporting back to the board or is thinking about all the time? That's what you need to find out. Might not be written down, but I guarantee that exists in some form. So go and have those conversations and find out. Okay, I'm going to take one more. We're at time. I'm going to take one more. Let's have a look. Jeepers. Okay. How do you push back with senior execs? Uh, okay. Read the Chris Voss book for this one. This is all about influencing. And this is a really, like, it's tricky. It's kind of fun, actually, if you make it a game. It's tricky because you need to keep the relationship, right? You need to keep them sweet, and you want to be trusted for your advice. What I would say is sometimes with senior execs, you just have to suck it up and do the work, even though if you know it doesn't make sense and it's not the right approach, then it's important for you to gather the data and have the conversation afterwards about why that particular thing didn't work and how you would love to help them to achieve their objectives the next time by taking a different approach. So my advice with senior executives is, don't talk about yourself, don't talk comms language, talk about their priorities. Like, play to their selfish desires. What are they trying to do? And how can you help them to do that? That is the trick. And Chris Voss's book will help you a lot with that. I feel like if I ever win the lotto, I'm just going to hire Chris Voss as, like, my personal coach. If anyone here ever wins the lotto and you want to send me a gift, if you send me Chris Voss, I'd be really happy. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Like, that was brilliant. I haven't had a chance to read the chat. I'm going to stay on now for a minute and do that. Thank you so much for coming along. I will see you at the next webinar on the 1st of April. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.